Hello everyone. So this week we were asked to do a micro project, and instead of sourcing some other random videos and editing them together, I thought, hey, I need to practice my script writing and camera delivery, so hey, may as well edit it myself and do a full video. I hope you guys don't mind, but I promise it'll be good. Promise. So if you've been paying attention to the news or social media over the last few days, you'll know that there's some big things happening. Oh, I'm not talking about North Korea, I'm talking about the same-sex marriage plebiscite. Now, I'm not going to blast you with a whole bunch of opinions and details or anything like that. I just want to look quickly at the history, the context, and the two viewpoints of the Labour and Liberal parties as the plebiscite goes ahead. Okay, so some background. Same-sex marriage has never been legally recognised in Australia. However, way back in 2008 and 2009, Kevin Rudd introduced some reforms that amended the Commonwealth law to effectively equalise treatment of same-sex couples and their children in a range of different areas like healthcare, taxation, citizenship, superannuation, and more. While civil unions, registered relationships and civil partnerships have been allowed in Australia since the Family Law Act of 1975, the specifics of those unions meant that until 2008, same-sex couples were not treated equally compared to heterosexual couples in a number of different important ways. With the ever-increasing calls to legalise same-sex marriage, not just in Australia but across the world, it is inevitable that something had to be done, which brings us to what's going on today. Okay, this is getting serious. I need to tie my hair up. You might remember that this isn't the first time same-sex marriage has been at the forefront of national consciousness. Back in 2013, the ACT introduced and passed the Marriage Equality Act that officially legalised same-sex marriage in our capital, but the federal government immediately challenged it in the High Court, who promptly struck it down. It was argued by the High Court that this was inconsistent with federal Commonwealth law, so, obviously, same-sex marriage stayed illegal nationally. If you aren't really up to date with the news, or if you find the endless squabbling of old men and women with really poor sense of style exhausting, then you probably are a bit confused about the positions of the major parties in this debate. The Labour Party, led by Bill Shorten, the human equivalent of a wholemeal bread sandwich with nothing on it, is overwhelmingly in favour of same-sex marriage, but they're against the plebiscite. Wait, what? The Labour Party argues that the topic should be decided in Parliament by a conscience vote of MPs. The rationale is that opening the discussion up to the public runs the risk of potential hate speech and an uncomfortable discussion about whether love can exist between same-sex couples, which isn't entirely unreasonable. Instead, Labor says that it's the responsibility of Parliament to do its job and make the decisions as the representatives were elected to do. Based on the known positions of members, a bill on marriage equality would more than likely pass both houses and become law, while a postal vote is estimated to cost approximately $122 million, so you're not cheap. On the other side, the coalition has stated that due to the importance of the subject, it's the job of the Australian people to decide whether same-sex marriage should be legal, and in the event of a yes vote, the government will bring a bill to the floor to be passed. You might be asking though, Stuart, isn't Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, personally in favour of same-sex marriage? The answer to this is yes, he is, but this is where politics come into it. So a quick recap. If you can't remember, in 2007, Kevin the Rudder Rudd won an election over John Howard's eyebrows. Rudd turned out to be a great campaigner, but overall a pretty terrible leader, and he was overthrown by Julia Gillard from his own party. Jules won an election in 2010 before the polls turned against her, and she in turn was again defeated by Kevin Rudd, who took the Prime Ministership from her. Rudd would lose the next election to Tony Abbott, pictured here, plotting his next victim, and in 2015, Malcolm Turnbull challenged and defeated Abbott in a leadership spill to become the new Prime Minister. Just to count, that's 3 sitting Prime Ministers who have lost their position through party politics in 7 years, and it's not hard to imagine that Turnbull doesn't really want to be the 4th. So while Malcolm might personally be in favour of same-sex marriage, the conservative base of his party definitely isn't, and it's pretty hard to contest elections when your party decides to kick you out of leadership. So instead, Turnbull can let the citizens decide what to do, allowing him a degree of protection from potential backlash within his own party, while giving a chance for marriage equality to go ahead. That said, based on the social media reaction, this is a compromise that has led to pretty much 0 people being happy, and for better or worse, well, regardless, it's still happening. I hope I've shed some light on the situation today. I'll leave you with the link to register for the vote down below, since you have less than 2 weeks to apply, and regardless of your views on this issue, I strongly urge you to make your voice heard. We live in a democracy, and while it's really difficult sometimes to see any point in taking part, if you don't participate in the political process, there is no way to make your voice heard, and you influence nothing. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think.